Hey now, take a step outside and seize the day now. Set aside your worries, it's okay now. The sun is here to stay. Blue skies, feel the wind beneath you as you fly.
Hi friends, my name is Katie. Welcome back to my channel. If you are a returning member of my community, if you are new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things healthy living, motherhood, and mental health and wellness. So I'm here with my son Drew. He has got kind of some crazy hair right now, which we don't entirely know what's going on with it. It's like kind of a baby mullet party in the back and like super business short in the front. So it's a little wild and it's definitely emphasized on this camera. But today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about my breastfeeding journey and my experience with breastfeeding. This is something that's bittersweet for me and has definitely been complicated. So I wanted to share it in case it can help any of you women out there. This is not meant to make anyone feel bad or you know, shame anyone at all. I personally have decided that I wanted to exclusively breastfeed until a year of age. That did not happen, but we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the video. One thing I do want to drive home though is don't get yourself like psyched out about breastfeeding. Don't walk away from any of the videos that you watch on YouTube feeling depressed or discouraged. I think that's one thing that I was doing all the time. Like there were so many moms talking about how much milk they were pumping and how much they were feeding, how many ounces they could pump a day, how big their stockpile in the freezer was, and I felt so sad, like so sad. Now this has a happy ending because I discovered something that works for my body that was recommended by my OBGYN that increased my milk production. But in all honesty, I'll probably make a video down the road and it may change. So I'm going to keep you guys updated. I do really want you to realize though that if you're struggling and that's why you found this video, or you're an expecting mom and you're watching this video in advance, pregnancy and having a baby and breastfeeding is all so different for each person, and your strengths may be someone else's weaknesses and your weaknesses may be someone else's strengths. So maybe you're looking at their good moments and their wins and their losses for you, but that doesn't mean that you're not succeeding as a mother in other areas. I think the most important takeaway from all of this is that your child, your son or daughter needs a happy and healthy mama, and part of that health is your mental well-being. So if you are making yourself so upset and developing anxiety and depression over your milk production or your breastfeeding experience, that's not what this little one needs. More than anything else, they will benefit more from a well-adjusted and happy mother. So without further ado, let's chat breastfeeding. So I ended up having an emergency C-section, which was not part of my plan. It makes breastfeeding a lot harder. It makes getting established in breastfeeding a lot harder. So that was never the way I thought my story was gonna go. I had a very wonderful vaginal birth plan planned. I thought he was gonna come out pretty naturally, and that did not happen. I went in for an appointment at MFM, and I had another appointment scheduled after that at my normal OB. My MFM doctor said, you need to go up to labor and delivery right now, we're having this baby. And I was like, what? And apparently there were complications with my placenta and he would have been stillborn had we not gotten him out that fast. So my husband rushed to the hospital, grabbed our bags, and we went into an emergency C-section less than an hour later. So as a result, I wasn't in labor, so there weren't hormones being released in my body. I ended up having a really traumatic C-section, so it was a little bit more complicated than they expected. They couldn't get him out. He was breech, he was footling breech, and his feet, both feet, were hooked up under my pelvic bone, so they were really struggling to get him out of the body. There were some complications during surgery that I have come to terms with and worked through, but it ended up being really traumatic, and they had to they gave me an epidural to start, so I didn't get a spinal. I chose the epidural option. I had enough time, because we were waiting for my husband to get there, that the epidural was able to work. However, it affected my phrenic nerve, so my diaphragm stopped working, and just my intercostal muscles were allowing me to breathe. And my intercostals were contracting so much, and I was having such shortness of breath, and it was during COVID, so I was under a mask, and all of this was crazy. Seriously, like, weirdest story ever, but if you know me, you should expect nothing less. So what happened? Yeah, I could barely breathe, and then I started having tremendous pain. So they ended up upping my IV anesthesia, gave me more anesthesia, and I passed out from a combination of the breathing, couldn't get enough air, and the anesthesia. And from that additional anesthesia, I was so out of it, you guys, zonked. And I wasn't entirely set on a natural birth, but honestly, after this experience, I was gonna get an epidural and everything, like in my normal birth. But after this experience, I seriously am going to think long and hard and talk to my OBGYN about how much I want a medicated birth, because I was so out of it, you guys, like so out of it. He came out and they said he was born. I was in and out, and my husband was like crying, and he was there, and I was like moaning. I wasn't screaming, but I was like yelling in pain that I was gonna throw up, and I was gonna throw up. And I wanted to do skin to skin right away. Like, I wanted to have him on me and establish that contact, especially to help with breastfeeding. That didn't happen, so I couldn't. Try not to get emotional here, it's really hard. They took him over to the NICU team to make sure he was okay, and everything was okay, which was awesome. And then my husband ended up coming back over to me because I was like losing my shit in the surgery, like literally, sorry bud. And I was out of it. They ended up wheeling us back once he had gotten all of his checks from the NICU team. They ended up wheeling us back to the room, and he had to be in his bassinet because I couldn't even hold him because I was so out of it. And then finally, after like an hour and a half plus, a nurse held him to my chest to start establishing skin to skin, but I couldn't even hold him myself. I was like that out of it. So it was really hard, and something I wish I had known, which I guess is me sharing this journey with you guys to kind of help you. If you're a mom who's having a C-section, or if you're a mom who has a normal delivery, do your skin to skin, and literally like do your skin to skin before all of the checks if your hospital allows that. But also do that skin to skin as soon as they do the necessary checks, like not the stupid stuff, like the necessary checks. Do your skin to skin for a long time. Literally everything now that I have learned and read about and has been shared with me by my doctor is that if you especially have a C-section, you need a good 1 hour to 2 hours of uninterrupted skin to skin to establish that breastfeeding supply. Now 2 hours is pushing it a little bit, but you definitely need that first hour. It helps all of those hormones release in your body, oxytocin to flood the system and everything, to start producing that colostrum and really establish your breastfeeding. Now over the next few days, skin to skin is so important. I was trying to share that with my husband just to start establishing a bond and normal flora for him because he was a C-section baby. Pro tip, if you do have a baby via C-section and not vaginally, and they can't get that bacteria on the way out, skin to skin is a great way, and breastfeeding is a great way to start establishing normal flora in them and kind of that skin bacteria. So that's good. I'm glad I established a bond with my husband and him. However, I probably would have been a little bit more selfish if I had known breastfeeding was going to be so hard for us down the road. We had an incredible experience initially at the hospital. His latch was incredible. He literally had the fishy lips. You want to see their lips kind of like, I don't know if you can, how well you can see that, but like very open mouth, like basically mouth open as wide as possible, latched onto your boob. I think these are probably horrible demonstrations, but you want a very wide latch so almost your whole areola is covered and not just the tip of your nipple. That will kill your nipples, girlfriend, like kill them. We had a great latch. He was very strong, so he was like sucking away. And you want to see that they're moving like near their ear area to show that they're swallowing and actually drinking, and not just using you as a human pacifier. That's so important. You may want to bond with your child and kind of develop that relationship, but if they're using you as a pacifier, you're gonna be done in like the first few days, girlfriend. Like, it is painful. And so really just having them on there when they're feeding and feeding alone is so critical to surviving it. I was doing okay. I was really trying to not, I was trying to monitor not cracking or bleeding or anything like that. I was using the Earth Mama nipple butter. Highly recommend this product. I loved it. Then my freaking lactation consultant came in and she's like, oh, don't use that. Just use your breast milk and rub it around your nipple and your areola. So bad, y'all. Like, so not good. The moment I started doing that, and I did it for the next few days, I had cracked and bleeding nipples with stress lines down the center. You can look at your nipple, and if it has like a white line down the center, those are called like stress lines. And so I absolutely wish that I had just continued using the nipple butter. Literally probably day 3 of not using it, I was in tears on the phone with my mom, just like in so much pain, crying to my husband, saying I couldn't do it. You can do it. You can keep going. You can do it. It's just gonna be hard, but learn from my mistakes and don't do them. But use nipple butter of some kind. I like the Earth Mama because it was more natural than like the lanolin or whatever the heck it's called, from some of the other brands. It really helped when I started doing that again. It really helped heal them up. I also was using the wrong size pump, so that's something I think is really important. My milk came in the day I came home. When it came in, my breasts were so engorged and they felt like I had done a really great push-up workout. Like my armpits were sore almost. I did ice them, which helped, but I pumped the milk out and was like giving it to him. But I use my Haka pump all the time, that little one that it suctions onto your breast and just catches the excess drip off. So I never understood this before I had a baby, but basically when you're breastfeeding, your other boob will leak often, especially if it has a lot of milk in it, and it gets all over everything. It's so annoying, and why waste that milk? So you put the Haka on. It doesn't actually pump anything. You don't squeeze the bottom, which is literally what I thought you did. Like, I was inept. As someone that did a ton of research, like, no one explains these things. So the Haka just sits on, and it's almost like a soda bottle that you squeeze, and then like if you put your lip up to it, it'd suck part of your lip in. So you squeeze the bottom of the Haka and put it right over your nipple, and it sucks your nipple in, but that suction holds it on there, and it catches the excess drips as you're feeding on the other breast. So highly recommend a Haka. I use it all the time. I could probably get like 4 to 6 ounces, probably 4 to 5 ounces in the Haka just from feeding on the other boob. The other thing I will mention is my boobs were totally different in the amount that they produced. The doctor said that this is normal. I tried for about a month to get the production up in the boob that was producing less, and it didn't work. Didn't work at all for me. I did that by pumping a lot more between feedings and feeding kind of starting on that boob or whatever, but you want to make sure your baby gets what's called the hind milk, which is the milk at the very end. So if you start on one and you switch to the other, they never get that nutrient-rich hind milk. So you kind of want them to finish off one boob. That being said, I did use my breast pump in the beginning. I didn't use it probably the first week or so, but I probably started using it the second week. I did try manual expression. For me, this was extremely painful, partially related, I think, to my C-section and just all the stuff that was going on in my body. I also had I had torn intercostal muscles on my right side, which we thought was broken rib for a while, so that may have been part of it. But I did start using my breast pump. My OB absolutely said that the science shows that breastfeeding is supply and demand. Think of it that way. So the more demand there is, the more supply your body will start to make. So that means if he's feeding more and you're pumping more, your boobs will start producing more. Now, you want to be careful with this. You'll be like, oh, I'm really going to establish my milk supply. Like, woo, I'm going to pump all the time. That's okay, but if you are not a stay-at-home mom, think about that. Because literally, I was trying to bring my supply up to exclusively breastfeed him, I was pumping between every single feeding. All I was doing was I was either hooked up to a baby or a machine all day long. All day long. I felt like a cow, literally, because my body was massive and because I was just producing milk all day. So I don't really recommend that because I plan on going back to work. And so as someone that's going back to work, I do want to pump when I would normally feed him. That's what I'm planning on doing, but I can't be pumping like 8 hours a day. That's literally what it ends up being. So definitely think about how much you want to pump, because if you increase your supply too much, then what are you going to do when you're engorged and you have all this excess milk and you're not able to pump and feed and pump and feed and pump and feed all day long? So that's the supply and demand idea. It definitely does help to establish initially, she said, kind of getting that demand up, especially if they're not eating a ton and they're little guys. Creating that demand for milk will help your milk and your breasts produce more milk. So that's that component. When my milk supply started dropping a lot, I went from about, I want to say like 5-6 ounces in my left breast and 3, and I think I started with like 4 ounces in my right, and then it went down to 3, and it was 3 for a long time. But then they started dropping. I started using every single lactation recommended product in the universe. I was drinking the mother's milk tea from the start. I was doing oats. I was doing lactation cookies. I tried every brand of lactation cookies. I did brewer's yeast. I did like every single thing that they recommend, and really didn't see like any results other than that I felt fat because I was eating lactation cookies all the time. Not good. Did not recommend. Didn't like it. So I kind of quit because I didn't see any improvement and my milk supply was still going down. And I tried this for several weeks, guys, like over a month in total, but I tried a different thing at different times to see what was really helping. So I got to the point where my left breast was producing maybe 3 ounces, 2 to 3 ounces, and then my right breast was producing less than 1 on average. And I was really panicking because I was like, oh my God, my milk supply is going to disappear. And I was crying all the time, watching every YouTube video on how to get it up. But I was like, for my own mental health, I cannot pump 24/7. Like, I just can't do it. So that was not an option for me. I also do suggest that you check the flange size on your pump. So my breasts are relatively large, but I guess my nipples are not. And so my kit came with a 24 and a 28 millimeter flange. You need to make sure you have the right flange size because it will absolutely help you in managing that pain. I thought, oh, I have big boobs, I probably have big nipples, I have a big areola, whatever, I don't know. Let me do the 28. That was awful. Then I did the 24, and then I found out I actually fit into a 20 millimeter flange. So I had to order those separately. But I do recommend you check that out before you start pumping, because it will help you a lot in managing the pain and not developing cracked or broken nipples or bleeding nipples, and it will just make the whole process pleasanter, or pleasant, more pleasant, I think. But as far as my milk supply decreasing goes, I went about a month with it decreasing, and then I went and saw several lactation consultants, talked to my pediatrician multiple times, and then called my OB, and she said, have you ever tried fennel essential oil? And I was like, no, I'm not really an essential oil person. And she's like, just try it. You've kind of tried everything else. It is a galactagogue, which is known to increase milk supply and help with lactation. Try it out. I was like, okay, does it hurt at all? Or, you know, can it be harmful at all if I use it as prescribed? And she was like, no, just get a good quality one, check the way it's processed, and try that out, see if it helps at all. So I talked to my girlfriend who actually was selling essential oils and ordered some fennel essential oil from Young Living, which is, in my opinion, the best essential oil company as far as the way they process and distill their oils and grow their plants and check their soil and all of that. They're kosher, USDA and FDA certified with various products. And so I started using that, and I truly think that that is the only thing, that and using essential oils now for like my mental health are the only things that have gotten my milk supply back up. So I have been consistently pumping and sharing on my Instagram stories, which I think is probably a little weird for the guys, that I'm pumping at least 6 ounces out of my left breast, and now 3 ounces out of my right consistently, probably for the past week or so, after about 2 weeks of taking the fennel essential oil. It's absolutely brought my milk supply basically back to where it was when I first came home from the hospital and my milk came in, and I was doing really well initially. It saved it. It went like this, and now it has come back up, which has been such a blessing and such an answer to prayer. And I just feel so lucky that I was terrified that my, you know, milk supply was going to be gone and I wasn't going to be able to breastfeed him at all. And I don't think you'll understand this unless you are a mom, or you're becoming a mom, or if you've just become a mom. I think you'll get it. It's scary, and you want to be able to feed him and give him the best possible advantage any way that you can. I was very skeptical of the oils to start, but now I have drunk the Kool-Aid and seen that it actually really worked with my body chemistry. So if it's something that you guys want to learn more about, or you want to kind of hear more about how oils are helping my life, definitely shoot me a message and I'll hook you up. But yeah, that was like the biggest thing that transformed it. My OB was like super happy to hear about that and glad that we are breastfeeding. We so to tell you a little bit more about the milk supply issue, I forgot about this part, mom brain. We went into he had growth checks like 3 times within the first 2 weeks. He went down in weight at the hospital, but started gaining weight the day he came home. So when my milk supply came in, he instantly started gaining weight. We were doing really well. We were doing every 2-hour feedings, and then we were less than 1% on the growth percentile chart. But he was a preemie, he was early, and he was growth restricted on top of that. So we weren't surprised by that. But then at our 1 month, he went down in percentile, which was very scary since we were already so low. So they said you need to start supplementing with formula, you know, do 1 to 2 feedings of formula a day. You can keep breastfeeding the rest of the time. So I started doing that, and he gained a ton of weight. Like, I could just see he looked he was skeletal before that, and then he started putting on a ton of weight. And I know that formula does put on a lot of fat initially, but it's what he needed. He needed anything beyond just being a skeleton. So we were very just grateful that he was putting on any weight. And it really ended up being only 1 feeding a day that we were doing with formula, but that was fine. It gave me a ton of anxiety initially. I just felt bad. I felt like a failure. I didn't know why other moms could do it and I couldn't. Like, if I could have willed it into existence, I would have done it. Like, if I could have just had the power to totally breastfeed, I absolutely would have done it. I felt like I was letting him down. I felt like I was letting my husband down and being a mother. Like, it was just a lot of stuff going on psychologically. So that's kind of what led me to the essential oils and using them both for like emotional support and to bring in my milk supply. And I've been really shocked at how much they've benefited us. So now, we recently had his 2-month appointment. He put on a ton of weight. We went up a ton of percentile points. He's happy and healthy and less cranky. His stools are better. He's sleeping better. And we are doing completely breastfeeding until bedtime. We do 1 formula feed a day. And he eats formula right before bed, and then the rest of the day it's all breastfeeding. And we're going to continue that until next month when he will have a growth check. And then our pediatrician said we might be able to supplement out the formula and go back to breastfeeding. So we're gonna see. We're gonna try to make it. We're gonna keep our milk supply up with our fennel and see how it's going. So that's my breastfeeding journey so far. Definitely some things that I wish I had known sooner, like skin to skin and establishing milk supply. A lot of people told me not to pump at all. I should have pumped more initially. Definitely gotten that supply and demand thing down. It's like, I don't know why people say you shouldn't be pumping. Like, absolutely you should have contact with your baby, and you know, you should have like people touching your breasts and whatnot, but it's very hormonal. Like, you can't just you're not going to get the same response if you're just massaging your own breasts. So maybe pump and hold your baby. That for me was what really brought my milk dropped when I would hold my baby and start pumping. And for me, I actually only pump on the stim setting. I have the Spectra breast pump, and it has a stim setting and it also has a normal pump setting, and I pump on the highest and fastest stim setting, which the stim setting is actually what's supposed to mimic your baby when they initially latch on. So my husband does this way better, but when they initially latch, they're like, and then they go more to a, And so the stim setting is literally like a continuous, and it's the only thing that gets me to be able to pump milk. So when I switch it to a normal pump, stops, totally stops. So I have to keep it on that faster setting. But that's what helps me. To each his own. Definitely talk to your OBGYN before trying any of these things. They have a lot of wisdom and advice if you have a good one. If you have questions for me about my experience, definitely shoot it to me in the comments below, or find me on Instagram. I'm sharing daily videos of this little dude, our adventures, my experience kind of with switching over our house to more healthy products, and breastfeeding stuff all the time on there, motherhood stuff all the time on there. So definitely find me over there on Instagram and we can chat in the DMs. So thank you for all of your support. I hope this helps some of you mamas out there, new mamas, old mamas, whatever mamas, expecting mamas. It's an awesome journey, and the best thing that you can do for your baby is have joy in your heart, even if the circumstances aren't going your way. So I'll talk to you guys later. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you want to see more content. Bye.